Well, something a little bit different there. That tornado scene there in Wizard of Oz, that was the single most expensive segment. Just the gantry alone for that tornado cost $200,000 in 2016 dollars. But I figured I'd show you that since we just got clear skies here. A little bit of a conjunction of the moon and Venus looking out to the southwest. And we've got a little bit of a warm up here on the Great Plains. And let's see. Yeah, there we go. Downslope flow still in Canada. So temperatures looking like this. Lots of 70s and 80s here in Texas. 80 down there at Corpus Christi. This would be a good day to be down at the beach right now. And I see up in North Dakota 40s. So we are getting a little warm up in spite of that Alberta Clipper that's moving through the northern plains. The 500 millibar chart looking like this. Still got a little bit of northwest flow, but not that much cold air up in Canada. And you can see the polar vortex is kind of weak up there. There's a little bit of that at Baffin Bay, but we don't have that deep concentric appearance we have to the contours usually this time of year. Upper level flow showing a little bit of a blocking pattern here. See a little bit of a Rex block forming there. So this segment right here, this is kind of like an omega block, but south of that, got this cutoff low there. So this is why we call that an omega. It's a low that's south of a high, and that tends to lock up the pattern. So for right now, we've got a jet flowing from roughly Seattle down into the Dakotas, and we pick up another segment from about Minnesota down to the Carolinas. So that's our main baroclinic activity area. And flow very weak over the desert southwest. The surface map looking like this evening. So here's our little Alberta Clipper coming through around the, looks like the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. So the main baroclinicity area, pretty much like that from about Lincoln to Des Moines and out to around North Platte. Here's a little bit of an occlusion going up to the Minneapolis area. And just north of that, just a little bit of upper level lift associated with this conveyor belt working around the east and north side of that low there. And switching over to AWIPS, we can see a little bit of that snow shower activity. Actually, some of it may be rain. I need to look at the surface chart. Let me load that up here. So I think we do have some temperatures running a bit on the warm side. So we'll bring in that METAR data and that synoptic data, and we'll ingest that into the program. And here come the plots. Very cold out there in Russia, so that's where the cold air is. Lots of 50s, minus 50s up there. But a much different story out in Alaska. So we pick up lots of teens and 20s out there. And coming down to Michigan, if I can get that centered here. There we go. There's our 20s, so yeah, I guess we do have snow showers in effect there. And here's that Alberta Clipper moving out of Nebraska and the Des Moines area. So let me see if I can outline exactly where that system is. Probably like this along Interstate 70. And then in western Illinois, we can pick out the warm front right there. So very warm 50-degree readings around St. Louis, dropping off to 32 there at Chicago. And there's the occluded front going up to the surface low up in this area. So what else do we have going on? We've got a little bit of baroclinicity up in the Vancouver, Seattle area, right in that region. And things are pretty quiet in the desert southwest. And just off the coast, we can see the next system coming inland. Pretty much in the same spot we had it yesterday, so I guess it's just kind of winding around out there. Okay, and then we'll just take a quick look at the satellite. Really not much going on. Very quiet. So that's the reason I ran that Wizard of Oz footage. So, well, let's see what's going on in the GFS over the next week or so. Northwesterly flow here. And you can see we bring down a bit of a trough out of British Columbia. A little bit of northwesterly flow. Normally that would bring in a lot of cold air this time of year, but we are just running pretty warm here. And it's possible, depending on what's going on in the Arctic Basin, with this continuation of northwest flow over the next 5 to 10 days, we may be able to bring down a little bit of cold air at some point. But it looks like around mid-February, we start picking up a little bit more of a zonal flow here. So this is getting in within range of ChaserCon. That's coming up on the 18th or 19th. Here's the 15th, so looks like we got a ridge out to the west. So that's a fairly, that's probably within the range of forecast capability of the GFS. Ridge west and trough east. So that points to maybe kind of a fair weather pattern and maybe temperatures possibly a little bit above normal. Okay, let's set up the forecast, and we're going to take a look at a couple of places around the world, not just the U.S. here. So let me take a look at the chat here, see what's going on. And before I do that, let me put up some footage here. And yeah, there we go. Still playing around with the webcam here. There's a view of what it looked like outside earlier this evening. Chroma key is working kind of strangely. A little bit of blotching there, but let's see. Sue checking in. Marks says, hello, good evening, Tim and chat. Michael, got Andrew here. Fred up in North Dakota, warming up to lower 40s today. Alexi from Texas, and Andrew, I'm not sure if I mentioned you. We have Kevin and Jeff here. Message retracted. I wonder what that is. Mark, Fred says 5x5 on the audio. Alexander says, I've been watching the archives and absolutely love your webcasts. Excellent. Glad you're enjoying that. Mike Bexley checking in. And Karen W., hello from Ireland. Yeah, we're going to be checking out Europe, so good timing. And Mike Bexley saw the sounding lesson yesterday. Excellent. Well, let's take a look at the charts here and get rid of my ugly face here. And we'll check into the GFS and run this forward for the next 10 days or so. Okay, so there's our Alberta Clipper coming through Minnesota there. And we've already talked about that. So you see the basic pattern we have, a large low here, large Great Basin, Pacific high. This is kind of a stagnant system, mostly driven by radiational cooling in the cold desert valleys of Oregon, Idaho, and Nevada. So there's a lot of radiation here at nighttime, and that kind of regenerates the cold air over a period of days. So let me see if I can get my controls going here, and we'll run this forward. I'm trying to do that without triggering the model forecast, or the model sounding. Okay, So we bring in a little bit of cold air into the central plains, not much progress to the south. So that's being slowed down a little bit by the cyclonic flow here, bringing some flow from the southwest. But it looks like some of that cold air does come into Texas around Thursday or Friday. You see the 540 line kind of sneaking south a little bit. And yeah, I see that right there, a little bit of a upper level system sneaking through. And there that goes. And here goes one of these cold Arctic air masses heading, or polar air masses heading south into the southeast U.S. And then we have a new system coming out of the northern plains on the 5th. So this is going to be Sunday. And that'll affect mainly the Midwest right there. So still looking at a 552 line over Texas. That'll keep things a little bit on the mild side. And this is the system we were looking at for the 7th. Looks like the model has kind of backed off on that a little bit, bringing that further south. And then we bring the 540 line into Texas, a little high building in on the 9th, so that'll probably be the next big change. Here comes another Alberta Clipper heading south. And then fairly large system out in the Great Lakes on the 12th. So that's a new development coming up for mid-February. Okay, we were going to take a look at some of the weather elsewhere. Let's check out the GFS forecast for Europe. And since we have no weather going on here, might as well check that out. Well, the main climatic influences in Europe are the warm ocean waters out in the Atlantic. That's a huge factor. That sends in a lot of maritime polar air into Western Europe here. And the other factor is the cold Siberian air. This is a cold air production region, and that tends to send cold air masses westward. So a lot of times it boils down to which one is in control. So this looks more like a Atlantic pattern here. So you see the British Isles under this southwesterly flow. And we see this thermal ridge across the UK for this evening right there. A little bit of a frontal system offshore right there. So this is just kind of a light showery pattern there for the UK, some mild weather. We see this front working across Ireland and the UK. And we see a little bit of a cold core low over Czechoslovakia right there. And we know that's an upper level low because this is a region of cold mid-level or low-level air. That's going to leave an impression on the 500 and 300 charts, so we will find a 500 millibar low over that area. So that's going to be an area of kind of showery weather as that drifts around Central Europe. Area of snow showers there. So going forward through the week, just continued southwesterly flow across the UK. That cold air mass moves off to the northeast, and we start bringing in some more warmer tropical air from the southwest. So things kind of become a little bit more mild, and then we have this new storm system off the Irish coast. Good 960 millibar low there. So I'm taking a stab at the fronts, probably looking at something like that right there. And then offshore, a little bit of an occlusion. And there goes that upper level low wandering around in Poland. So things very much under the influence of the Atlantic region. Here comes another system coming through next weekend on the 4th. And then another one coming through on the 5th. So kind of a wet pattern there for Florida, for France. Big difference, UK and Germany. And then you see here, we start seeing the Siberian high building in. And so the clockwise flow bringing in cold air from Russia into the Baltic republics. So there's that cold thickness. This is where we get a little bit of a cool down in Eastern Europe right there. And then that kind of fades out and we become under the influence of some more of these Atlantic systems here. Okay, so that's kind of just a quick overview of Europe. Let's check out Asia. I don't think we've ever looked at Asia. Here the big influence in the wintertime is the Siberian and Mongolian highs over this plateau area. Again, very strong radiational cooling in that area. And so we tend to get very strong highs. The highest sea level pressure ever observed on Earth was in Mongolia, right in this area, 1080 millibar high. That's about 32, 33 inches, somewhere in there. So the core of the polar air here over northern China into eastern Siberia, and that's driving a lot of the cold air masses feeding into this baroclinic zone between Japan and China. So moving forward, you can see we've got this little bit of a cold air outbreak. Probably a little bit of a reinforcing shot of a cold front right there. But you can see further south, the extent of this polar air goes almost all the way through Taiwan, almost all the way to the Philippines. So as a result, we tend to see a little bit of showery weather here along that front, kind of a quasi-stationary front. So going forward, you can see in Japan there, here's a little system moving through Japan. This is very similar to what they had after that big earthquake on March 11th of 2011. You remember seeing those snow showers, very stormy looking skies, very similar weather pattern. There was a front coming through with a little bit of upper level, bit of a cold air aloft, very showery weather, and they had a lot of snow flurries going on. So you see we get a lot of cold air advection in there, and then things kind of moderate, and then we get a little bit of a warm up around the 2nd or 3rd of February. So you see now we have high pressure building in, and things look pretty calm there in Japan now. But things coming together in Korea again. Here comes another system. We see things pick up. Here's another frontal system. So that's kind of the pattern we see there between Korea and Japan this time of year. So things quiet down around the 8th or 9th. High pressure again. And then we see things tighten up yet again. And this actually is what tends to feed these frontal systems that go across the Pacific and head towards Alaska and the West Coast. That only takes about maybe 5 or 6 days. And then we'll finish off with Australia. And as we know, this time of year, Australia is in their summertime months. So we're going to be under the influence of high pressure aloft and thermal lows in this area. And then further south where we have the cool ocean waters, we're going to have kind of a subtropical high over that area. So that gives us kind of a gradient from south to north, like that. So what we see here is a little bit of a upper level system working along that gradient right there in the western territories of Australia. Then things moderate around the 4th or 5th, not much going on. Here's another upper level system, and we've got this tropical storm moving along the coast here. That's going to be, forgot the name of the cities out here. Carnarvon is one. And Learmonth. I don't know, it's been a while since I've looked at maps out there. Anyway, here's a little cold air outbreak. This is around the 5th or 6th. So that's about how the front looks, and you see an area of cold air advection in this region. And that drives this front northward into the deserts, and we get a little bit of shower activity right in that region. And out around Sydney and Melbourne, there's a frontal system right there. And we can see that front moves up in this area here. A little bit of shower activity along that. Then we get this area of cold air advection coming in through Sydney around the 9th. So the front is going to look something like that right there. A little bit backwards, since we are in the southern hemisphere. Let me try that again. Okay, so there's our front. And so we're going to be looking at kind of a cold pattern here around the 9th or 10th. And then it goes quiet again, and then for the 12th and 13th, still pretty quiet. And looks like we got a bit of a tropical cyclone right there. Let me run that back. 10th, 11th, and 12th, 13th. And some of the tropical storms that they get out there are quite interesting. The smallest tropical cyclone ever, that was back in 1974, hit Darwin. Let me see if I can find that. Smallest cyclone in Australia. And this is a tropical storm that was only about maybe 100 miles in width. Was it Cyclone Tracy? Yeah, Christmas Day, 74. Yeah, look how small this thing was. This is going to be probably 5 degrees of latitude, so that's 300 miles. So you can see this thing is well within the range of about 200 miles. But it was quite strong. It had gusts up to 125 miles sustained, 950 millibar high, so we're talking maybe about a Cat 3. And there's where it shows the records between the largest super typhoon, and they're trying to show tropical cyclone Tracy. It's about the size of maybe several counties there in North Texas. So yeah, I mean, head into Wikipedia, check that out. Cyclone Tracy. They've got an interesting story there about Darwin trying to deal with that storm. Definitely kind of a mesoscale event. And if it wasn't for satellite images, that probably would have been a huge surprise there. Okay, I think that's about all I got for tonight. I'll just take a quick look at chat and see what's going on here. Fred thinks he lost a stream there for a minute. Okay. No problems there. Fire ants starting to come back. Too bad about that. Yeah, they're going to be showing up here too, I'm sure. And yeah, I think that's about it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the webcast tonight, and I'll try to think up something else interesting. I'm probably out of Wizard of Oz footage, so I'll see what else I can pull up. Anyway, I appreciate you all watching, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night. Take care.